Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael Chai. 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 Od Avinu Chai, Od Avinu Chai. Od Avinu, Od Avinu, Od Avinu Chai. Od Avinu Chai, Od Avinu Chai. Od Avinu, Od Avinu, Od Avinu Chai. Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael 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 Chai.
The Jewish people live. Am Yisrael Chai. What a beautiful way to start our Shabbat celebration. I'm Rabbi Barry Silver with congregation Va-Dor, demonstrating the fact that not only do the Jewish people live, but Jewish ideals live on. We've explored over the high holidays, why is it that the Jewish people are still here, even though more powerful adversaries have vanished off the face of the earth? And many reasons have been proposed. And we'll be discussing this all year long. And not only that, we'll be discussing how to make sure that the Jewish people not only live, not only survive, but continue to be vibrant and a powerful source for good in the community. But one reason why we know the Jewish people have survived is because of the importance of the Jewish home. And so it's my pleasure to welcome as sponsors for the very first time kosher caregivers. Their goal is to keep Jewish people in the home. One of the other reasons why Jewish people survive is because of the financial largesse of our sponsors and others. So we thank them, and we also encourage you to call our sponsors and to use their services. Every sponsor that we have is not just out trying to make a living for themselves, which is a very important thing. Everyone serves a vital Jewish purpose and furthers Jewish ideals. We've had Craig Goldenfarb, who's dedicated to seeking justice in the world through his legal services. We've had Barry Siegel on, who is very involved in trying to make sure that we can pass on our legacy to our loved ones through estate planning and through probate. And now we have kosher caregivers who try to make sure that people can stay in their home as long as possible because it's good for their well-being and their psychological improvement to stay in the home. And so Kosher Caregivers is our sponsor today, and I'm glad to say that Bill Salmonson will be leading us in the candles. He's one of the owners, as well as Annie Ben-Anyun, who also is the owner and leader of Kosher Caregivers. We also have leading us in the wine, Marsha Werby. This is Congregation Va-Dor, generation to generation. So we're glad to have Marsha Werby here because her daughter offers us spectacular music. She is an ordained cantor, a beautiful singer, and has helped to lead us in inspiring new music. And so we're thrilled to have Marsha Werby lead us in the wine. So let the Shabbat celebration begin.
Hi everyone, Shabbat Shalom. Come, let us welcome Shabbat and give thanks for its light. May our homes shine with the lights of Shabbat and our hearts glow with Shabbat joy this week and every week. We welcome Shabbos and give thanks for its light. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotov v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. May we be blessed with Shabbat joy. May we be blessed with Shabbat peace. May we be blessed with Shabbat light. My wife Annie and I own a home health agency called Kosher Caregivers. We've been in business in Boca for 15 years, and we love what we do. We feel like the the what is that highest modality of Hebrew? It just says kindness is, there is nothing greater than kindness. And that's how we've held ourselves, that's what we've adapted to, and we hold ourselves to the highest morals and integrity that we possibly can. Be well, everybody. If there's any questions that you have that we can possibly serve you with by answering, please contact Rabbi or Sharon. And it's been a pleasure to meet you. And I met Barry, Rabbi Barry, over the Jewish Journal and his beautiful writing. So I thank you so much, and I look forward to getting to meet all of you.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Good Shabbos, everybody. It's a privilege to be here to do the Kiddush with you. I welcome all of you into my home. Almost all Jewish ceremonies and celebrations involve wine, and Shabbat is no exception. Ritual doesn't exist for the sake of itself. It exists to accomplish and to feel something. We could imagine our forefathers and sages simply deciding to sweeten all celebrations, from birth to weddings, with a wine. However, the wine itself serves as the catalyst. It sets the time apart and makes it special, holy, and unique. It's not just the wine, it's about what the wine has the power to do when we raise our glass with special thoughts. That's the magic of Kiddush, from the Hebrew word for holy, our ability to separate time, to say that this is Friday night and it is special, and it will never happen again, and it has never happened before. And it's the beauty of the Kiddush. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei pri haggadah. I wish you all a safe, happy Shabbos until we can meet again.
Oh, it's time for saying good Shabbos. Yeah. Wish you a Shabbos that is better than you ever had before. No, we wish you good Shabbos. Yeah. Friday night time for saying good Shabbos. Yeah. We'll say good Shabbos cause we've waited all week long. No, we wish you good Shabbos. Yeah. Yes, we can. 25 hours, don't make no plans. Challah, children, man, I shepherd's wine in my Kiddush cup. All that I need is this one day. That's what's up. It's an ancient concept. Our Torah talking about what God said. I've been waiting for this all week long. How many matzo balls you want? Yeah, I got the Shabbos spirit. I feel it so strong from the minute of the Kiddush to be kind of my zone. Mirror voices joining in song. Keep the music going all night long. Sit down, relax, I want to impress. Life's hard, need time to de-stress. Thank God for my weekly refresh. Man, I love me some Shabbos Kodesh. Oh, it's time for saying good Shabbos. Yeah. Wish you a Shabbos that is better than you ever had before. No, we wish you good Shabbos. Yeah. Friday night time for saying good Shabbos. Yeah. We'll say good Shabbos cause we've waited all week long. No, we wish you good Shabbos.
Those of you who have read my articles in the Jewish Journal or heard some of our Shabbat celebrations of the past would probably not be surprised to know that I receive a lot of feedback. Many of it is very favorable towards what I do, and some are rather hostile to it. This is to be expected. when you take a rational approach to Judaism and speak out on issues, you are bound to incur the wrath of some people, and that's perfectly okay. My job is not to say what everybody else believes and to please everyone. That would be meaningless, and I would just be issuing a bunch of nonsense. My job is to try to articulate Jewish ideals and values in a rational way, and to never hesitate to speak what I feel needs to be said. One of my detractors contacted me and said, "How do you think Moses would feel if he heard what you were doing and the changes that you are making to the word of Moses?" And I responded at length, but I'll just give you a little synopsis of my thoughts on this. Moses probably would be thrilled to find out. He would probably say, "Mazel tov, congratulations, after 3,000 years, Jews finally understand that I did not come to lay down laws for all time. I was a revolutionary. I was the one who discovered God's new name. God revealed his new name and a new way of thinking about God through me. And the best thing that could be done would be for other people to follow in my footsteps and to continue this evolution of thought." In fact, there's a parable about Moses, and people were running around prophesying. And Joshua, his second in command, was very upset. And he said, "Moses, Moses, you got to stop these people. They're prophesying. They're speaking through God." And Moses said, "I wish all of my people would do that." So Moses would be thrilled to find out that in this modern day and age, people all across the Jewish spectrum, Reform and Reconstructionist and Humanist, and in our case, cosmic Jews, are finding new ways to understand God and Judaism, because that's what makes it relevant. In fact, there's a parable also that Moses was transported into the future and he saw crowns placed upon the letters of his Torah. If you've ever read the Torah, it's written in stylized writing. And Moses said, "How could you put crowns on these letters? I thought what I wrote was perfect." And God says to him, "This is the crowning achievement of your descendants who have embellished and further elucidated the beginnings that you discovered." And Moses was duly pleased. And so the crowning glory of humanity is science and reason. By that we crown the Torah and we allow it to continue to live and grow. So we now have the prayers, the Shema, the Baruch Hu, the Ma'ariv Aravim. All of these prayers are given new life and new meaning through the revelations of science and reason.
As we bless the source of light, so we are blessed. As we bless the source of life, so we are blessed. And the blessing gives us strength and makes our visions clear. And the blessing gives us peace and the courage to dare. As we bless the source of life, so we are blessed. As we bless the source of light, so we are blessed.
Adonai HaMevorach, Baruchu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam.
Baruch ata Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, Asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim. Bechokma poteach she'arim, ובתבונה משנה עתים, ומחליף את הזמנים, ומסדר את הכוכבים. במשמרותיהם ברקיע כרצונו, ברוך אתה אדוני המעריב ערבים. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
We continue now with the Avot, the Imahot. It used to be just the Avot, the fathers, but now it's the Avot, the Imahot, and the mothers. Because Judaism is always progressing, always becoming more modern, and so we now realize that we must give due respect to fathers and mothers, men and women. But I like to remind people that Avot also reminds us that in our democracy we have a vote. And when we cast our vote, or when we cast a vote, let us look to our fathers and our mothers, our forefathers, our ancestors, to see who they would vote for. We have two candidates who are running for office right now. One of them has chosen a strong, dynamic woman as his running mate. The other one speaks about women in ways that are known to all. I will not even remind everyone of it. Just think about how each one treats women and how they would serve as role models for our children as they try to grapple with what is their role as men and women and how should we treat each other. And let us bear this in mind as we cast a vote in the coming elections, which are so important for our future. We also give honor and respect to our ancestors and forefathers who gave so much of themselves and often made the ultimate sacrifice. Yes, men and women who preceded us gave the full measure of their devotion. Let us do no less for our heritage. We continue with Avot ve'Imahot.
Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei Avotenu ve'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor ve'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, ve'Konei Hakol, ve'Zocher Chastei Avot ve'Imahot, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה.
In the field of psychiatry and psychology, a new phenomenon has taken over the field. It's called mindfulness. And it's really a new way of remembering something that our ancestors knew also, that times of silent reflection, of meditation, of contemplation make our lives worthwhile. And so even if we have all the gifts of the world at our disposal, if we don't take time to pause and reflect and to appreciate what we have, then we don't enjoy them. Similarly, if we just lead our life one day to the next without thinking about what we're doing and where we're going, we'll never improve and we'll constantly repeat the errors of the past. And therefore, we Jews believe that it is incumbent upon us, especially in the year 2020, to use 2020 hindsight to see where we've been and to help us use our past to have 2020 vision of the future. Let us spend a few moments in silent meditation to appreciate all that we have and to see how we can do better in the future. Silent meditation.
מי שברך אבותינו, אברהם, יצחק ויעקב. מי שברך אמותינו, שרה רבקה, לאה ורחל. May the one who blessed our mothers, may the one who blessed our fathers, hear our prayer. Hear our prayer, hear our prayer, hear our prayer, and bless us as well. Bless us with the power of your healing. Bless us with the power of your hope. May our hearts be filled with understanding and strengthened by the power of your love. מי שברך אבותינו, אברהם, יצחק ויעקב. מי שברך אמותינו, שרה רבקה, לאה ורחל. Bless us with the vision for tomorrow. Help us reach out to those in pain. May the warmth of friendship ease our sorrow. Give us courage, give us faith, show us the way. מי שברך אבותינו, מי שברך אמותינו, hear our prayer, hear our prayer, hear our prayer, hear our prayer, and bless us as well.
טוב, טוב, טוב להודות, טוב להודות אדוני. טוב, טוב, טוב להודות, טוב להודות אדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, לשמך עליון. ולזמר, ולזמר לשמך עליון. טוב, 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 טוב להודות, טוב להודות אדוני. טוב, טוב, טוב להודות, טוב להודות אדוני.
Our Torah reading this Shabbat is from the book of Genesis, chapter 11, verses 1 to 9. This passage is fascinating. It contains the story of Noah and the Tower of Babel. Usually, the Tower of Babel gets overlooked because the story of Noah is more important. However, I've already discussed Noah in the past, so therefore today I'm going to read the Tower of Babel, but I will mention a little bit about Noah as well. Baruch hu et Adonai hamavarach. Baruch Adonai hamavarach leolam voed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. Amen. Vayehi chol haaretz safat achat udvarim achadim. According to the Torah, all the people at this time were speaking one language using similar words. The problem right away with this story is that just a few verses before, the people are all speaking different languages according to the different nations, and now all of a sudden they're all speaking the same language. The logical reason for this is that this story, as scholars know, was inserted into the Torah, and the person who did the insertion didn't notice that previously they had all been speaking different languages. Now, the Orthodox, of course, have an explanation for this. Not a rational or a good explanation, but nevertheless, it's an explanation. What they say is, for God, there's no sense of time. That to God, time means nothing, and therefore something could come before, after, it doesn't really matter. But to a rational mind, this is clearly written not by God, but by a human being. There's a scientific principle called Occam's razor to try to discern the truth. What that means is that if there's two explanations, one is very, very simple, and one requires a whole bunch of different things that are far-fetched to believe, go with a simple explanation. Simple explanation, human beings wrote this. Far-fetched explanation, God wrote it, but he has no sense of time and doesn't care about our sense of time either. But let us continue. Vayhi v'nis'am mikidem v'yimsa'u b'ka'ah ba'aretz shina'ah. And all the people were living in the same area, and they traveled from the east, and they found a valley in the land of Shinar. This story also presupposes that all the people on the earth were living in one place. They had no idea about North America, South America, China, all different areas of the world they just didn't know about. V'yashevu sham v'yomru ish el re'ehu, and they dwelt there, and one man said to the other, they began to talk to each other, Hava nilvana livanim. Hey, let's build us some bricks. V'nisrafa l'sarefa, and let's bake them so that they become really hard and strong. U'tehi lahem halivana le'even v'hachomer haya lahem lachamer. And thus these people began to use bricks as we use stone, and began to use bitumen as we use mortar. What this means is that the Jewish people were used to building out of brick and mortar, or rather out of stone and mortar. But the Babylonians built out of brick and bitumen, which is far more sophisticated than the Jewish people were used to. Nivaneh lanu ir umigdal v'rosho v'shamayim. Let us build a city and a great tower with its head, Rosho, or the top of it, in the skies. V'na'aseh lanu shem pen nefutz al penei kol ha'aretz. Yes, let us build this great tower, and then we can make a name for ourselves, instead of just being scattered around throughout the earth. Vayered Adonai li'ot et ha'ir ve'et ha'migdal asher banu b'nei ha'adam. God got a little nervous about this, and so he decided to come down and check out the city and the tower that these people were building. This also goes back to an anthropomorphic idea of God, in which he doesn't really know everything that's going on all over the place. He's located up in the heavens. He's got to come down to earth to check out what's going on, and he's getting a little bit nervous because the people are getting a little too big for their britches. Vayomer Adonai hen im echad v'safa achat v'kulam v'zeh chalem la'asot v'ata lo yivsor mehem kol asher yizamu la'asot. we better stop these people because they're all speaking the same language and they're getting too big for their britches and they're starting to become very powerful. So let's come down and see what we can do to prevent this from happening. Hava nerada v'nivaleh sham safta asher lo yishma'u ish safacha ehu. And so God caused them all to start speaking different languages so that one person had no idea what his neighbor was saying. V'yifatz Adonai otam misham al pnei kol ha'aretz. And thus God scattered them throughout the entire world, which is exactly what they wanted to avoid happening. This is the irony of Greek mythology and also Jewish mythology as well. V'yachdalu livanot ha'ir al ken kara shema Bavel. They were no longer able to build their great city, and so they called the name of that place Bavel. Ki Shem bilel Adonai safat kol ha'aretz u'misham tifetzem Adonai al pnei kol ha'aretz. It's very interesting that what they say is, we're going to call the name of this place Bavel because God confounded their language and scattered them throughout the earth. The interesting thing about this is that the Babylonians called themselves Babel because it meant Bab is gate and El is God. El is God in the Canaanite religion, Babylonian religion. In Judaism, we also use El, and in this passage also the plural Elohim, meaning God, or Eloheinu, you've probably heard means our God. And the funny thing is that Bab El is what the Babylonians call themselves in their language, and it means the gate of God. But the Jewish people wrote history. They wrote the Torah, so they had the last word. The Jewish people were overpowered by the Babylonians. The Babylonians destroyed them. And so they sought to strike back, not militarily, which they couldn't, but with their wits and with their ingenuity. So they said the word Bavel, and they actually changed the meaning of the Bavel means to confuse or confound or confusion. And so they made fun of them, saying that their language means confusion, because the Jewish people, when they heard Babylonian, it was just confusing. It was a foreign language. But Bavel continues today. The word Babel comes from the Babylonian. Even the modern day people still retain that meaning of confusion and nonsense. And the word baby comes from the same root, Babylon, meaning that they spoke a baby type of gibberish. And so we see today that the Jews still had the last word. Something else striking about this passage, it says that the people wanted to become powerful and build a tower and put their name on it. And the gods don't like this hubris and struck it down. Who is it today that likes to build towers, great big towers, and put their name on the tower? And who has great hubris, and he too, as we see in recent days, is being struck down and laid low. The blessing after the Torah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu torat emet, v'chayei olam nata bitochenu. Baruch atah Adonai, noten haTorah. We give thanks for the Torah. There was once a rabbi who was on his deathbed. His disciples gathered around him and were singing his praises. He was such a wonderful man, a great scholar. He knew the Torah backwards and forwards. He was kind to everyone. And just then he lifts his head up a little bit and he says, "Don't forget about my modesty." Yes, we should never forget how important it is to be modest. Another story I like to tell is about the woman who comes to the priest and says, "I have a confession to make. I committed the sin of vanity. For hours yesterday I was looking at myself in the mirror and just admiring my beauty." The priest says, "You don't suffer from vanity, you suffer from imagination." Well, it is good to have an imagination, but it's also very good not to demonstrate hubris. Hubris, being haughty, being boastful, is always brought low in mythology, Greek and Jewish mythology. And we see that here in the Tower of Babel. The people wanted to build a big tower. They wanted to get too big for their britches. And so God got upset and jealous and struck them down and laid them low. We see the same thing in the story of Noah. Noah is described as tzaddik, righteous, and also tamim, which means innocent, but it also means he was simple. He was not proud and haughty. He was humble. And the gods, including the Jewish God, likes people who are humble. Moses was supposed to be the epitome of humility. Yes, to be haughty is to be naughty. Those who boast often become toast. The loud and proud are disavowed. In fact, we have a God in the Jewish scripture who makes his bris with those who don't use hubris. So he prefers the bris over the hubris. The bris is his covenant. And he made a covenant in the story of Noah, which is why I have my Noah tie with Noah's Ark for the occasion. God made a covenant not just with Noah and his family, but with all living things on earth. What does that tell us, my friends? To have a covenant means that you recognize the legal status, the importance of the other party. God therefore recognizes all living things as having status and having rights, yes, animal rights to a clean environment and to a safe place to live. We would do well to recognize that right. We who destroy species left and right, who have no regard for all of creation, we could do well to recognize that while this story is not literally true, it speaks truths that we need today, because when we destroy other living things, eventually we also destroy ourselves. This story is remarkable. The story, the Tower of Babel, yes, it's a tall story, but it also speaks truths. The Tower of Babel reminds us of the fact that the Jews wrote history in the Torah, and he who writes history always gets the last laugh. What was the last laugh for the Jewish people? Well, the Babylonians destroyed the Jews. They destroyed the temple and sent them into exile. They were far more powerful militarily, but the Jews had their wits and their brains. So when they wrote the Torah, they mocked the Babylonians. How? Well, they said God made them all speak different languages, and that's why they're called Bavel, or Babylonians. The Babylonians described their name meaning Bab-El. Bab is gate and El is God. It's God in Babylonian, in Canaanite, in the Jewish religion. It meant God in all the different Middle Eastern religions. We get from El Elohim, which you've probably heard, Eloheinu, our God, Elohechem. But the Jewish people said, no. It's not called Babel because it means the gateway to God. No. God gave them the name Babel because he said that their name meant confusion. And the word still means confusion today. Babel, to babble means to have confusion. And even the word baby comes from Babylonian, meaning to talk nonsense and syllables that don't mean a darn thing. And so the Jewish people brought the Babylonians down low. The story tells that if you have hubris and you want to create great structures and show how great you are with your science, if you don't have religion and spirituality, it's not enough. You're going to be brought low. And so we see the same thing is true today with the rich and powerful. Those politicians who say, I'm the best, I'm the greatest, I know everything. Those people today are brought low. John Adams actually warned us back in the 18th century about trumpery. Don't be fooled by trumpery. It's actually an English word, an old English word that means deception or foolish nonsense or babble. And those people who surround themselves with people who are haughty are always also brought low. We can see that with many of the people who were in the administration of our president are either in jail or are disgraced. What about Amy Phony Barrett? I can't even bear it. If you listen to her, she was testifying and said she had no opinion on whether a president should agree to a peaceful transition of power. No opinion about abortion, no opinion about the Health Care Act. Didn't even know that she was chosen by Trump because he wanted someone who would defeat abortion laws and the health care. Shouldn't the Supreme Court Justice tell the truth? Yes, she might be in a position of great power, but she was brought low in the eyes and the public opinion of most. What about the Senator Perdue? Senator Perdue, who mocked Kamala Harris's last name. Do you know what his name means? Perdue, in French, it means lost. and it looks like his election might be lost. He was riding high in the polls until he started mocking people and trying to be haughty over them. And now look at him. He's disgraced. We can even see this guy, Dr. Scott Atlas. He's now made the head of Trump's medical team. He is elevated to a high status, Dr. Scott Atlas, but he is brought low because even though people are dying left and right, Atlas shrugged and trivialized the coronavirus, and now he too is brought low. It is said by Darwin, to kill an error is at least as good a service, and often better, than the discovery of a new fact. So we see that trying to make sure that error is destroyed helps us to be able to allow the truth to come out. We need, my friends, to recognize the truths of science and not appoint people to high places who are so haughty that they think they know more than the scientists. The scientists are like the modern day gods. They can predict the future. They understand the laws of nature. And if you mock them, and if you call them idiots, and if you disregard them, you will be brought low. Yes, the Jewish people prize humility. That's why Moses is seen as the most humble of all. There's a story about the woman who says, "I'll have you know my ancestors came over on the Mayflower." And a Jewish person said, "Oh, really? My ancestors came to America when the immigration laws were much more strict." My friends, when we go to vote and decide on a leader, remember that that leader will decide the fate of our nation. We want to pick someone who demonstrates humility over hubris. Because remember, God had a choice. And when he decided to make his bris, he made his bris with those who weren't demonstrating hubris. The bris is the covenant. So we want to make our covenant. We want to have our country ruled by people who are humble, who will choose humility over hubris, humanity over hubris, being humane and having a sense of humor over hubris. We want to see someone who has modesty, not someone who demonstrates mockery, someone who has rahmanas, not someone who has roughness, someone who will not commit the sin of vanity, but instead, like that woman in the story that I told in the beginning, had imagination. The Jewish people have a great imagination. In fact, the greatest nation of all is imagination. Because if we can imagine a better world, a world where people are humble and not proud, a world of peace, we can make it happen. It is said that the Tower of Babel had its height in the heavens, but it never described the feet. The base of Jacob's ladder said that the height was in the heavens, but its feet were on the earth. Let us always have our feet firmly planted on the ground. Let us not be haughty. Let us not be boastful. And let us not only look at our leaders. It's easy to find fault in them, but let us look in ourselves. Are we sometimes haughty? Are we boastful? Do we demonstrate this pride? If somebody disagrees with us, do we become arrogant and say, "How dare you disagree with me?" If someone says that perhaps we did something wrong, do we learn from them and think, "Gee, this is a great opportunity for me to improve myself"? Or do we get angry and upset when people challenge us? Let us always demonstrate humility, because in that way we can learn so much. We'll be much more pleasant to be with, and we'll be able to extend love and friendship to all. Let us learn from this tall story how to stand tall like Moses, and that is to allow ourselves to be humble. Shabbat Shalom.
Election day is on its way, it's such a grand occasion. Time to make decisions for the future of our nation. Candidates are on the stump, podiums are pounded. In the end, the choice is yours, so stand up and be counted. Exercise your right to kick politician booty. Now's the time, and do your patriotic duty. Go vote!
On November 3rd, 86 out of 99 state legislative chambers are holding elections.
There are 70 million young eligible voters, the largest and most diverse generation in our country's history.
We have the power to shape our country and communities.
But we
need all of us.
So picture this.
On November 3rd, we choose.
We choose who sits in 435 seats in the House of Representatives.
We choose 24 senators and 13 governors.
We choose the sheriffs, the DAs, and the judges too.
With 70 million young eligible voters, we choose to align a vision too humane to be political.
And make the future prouder than it's ever been.
So when the alarm goes off on Tuesday, November 3rd, 2020, and you arrive at your polling site to see freedom clocking 2-hour waits,
vote anyway. When the machines stop working and your job starts calling because American democracy is running late again, vote anyway.
Your vote is bigger than the color of your state.
It is a revolution in motion.
The moment you took to the streets and to the screens to share your outrage,
you recommitted to our collective dream, which requires that you lift it out of hashtags and into DC and your communities.
Because remember, this is the same year that brought a pandemic which disproportionately killed Black and brown Americans and indigenous people.
The same 2020 that took the breath of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Nina Pop, and Dominique Fells.
So on November 3rd, 2020,
know that voter suppression will be present.
Vote anyway. You will be discouraged.
Vote anyway.
Tuesday will be imperfect.
Vote anyway. When every headline is shouting democracy and duty and swing states,
you will be asked to believe in a dream that never came to fruition for every American. And despite your best reason,
you must uphold it. Because we can't vote a world into existence that we can't first imagine.
The American dream is ours for the making.
Come alive for ancestors who need you to finish their story.
A story that begs for atonement.
Cast your promise.
Cast your promise. Cast your vote.
Cast your vote.
But vote.
Shalom.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר ראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות אדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא.
When I began this Shabbat celebration, I mentioned that Beit Mikdash means a house of sanctification. Mikdash means holiness, sanctification. It's related to the word Kiddush, Kedusha, and the Kaddish. Why do we call the Kaddish the prayer for those who are no longer with us physically but are part of our lives spiritually? Why do we call that sanctification? Because we have the capacity to sanctify or make holy the lives of our loved ones by remembering what was unique and wonderful and noble in their lives and carrying on those wonderful traits in our own so that they can continue to make this world a blessing. As we read the Kaddish, we mention the names of our dear ones. I'd just like to share a few names with you. One is Shirley Ruth Zinn Smith. That is the mother of Earthman. Lanny Smith, someone who has shared his incredible music with us, who celebrates Earth in music and demonstrates the highest values of the Jewish people, celebrating the source of life. And in his music, he considers life and the earth to be holy and blessed. And so you could actually call her Shirley Ruth Zinn Smith because she's the mother of Earthman. You could call her Mother Earth. So we give thanks to Mother Earth and let us sanctify Mother Earth. We also celebrate the life of Brian Leeds, someone who did so much to help other people and was a source of joy and inspiration to many. We celebrate Rosalind Goldman, a teacher throughout her whole life who worked with people who were challenged educationally but never gave up on any of them and continued to join great organizations and lead great organizations like Brandeis, an inspiration to all of us. And we also remember Gloria Cohen and James Porter, who also passed away recently, and they also were people who celebrated life, and so we celebrate their lives on this Shabbat with the reading of the Kaddish. Yiskedal v'yiskadash shemer Rabba, v'yomad yivrach ruseh v'yamlich malchuseh, b'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayeh d'chol beis Yisrael, b'agala v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehi shemer Rabba mivorach le'olam u'omei u'maya, yisborach v'yistabach v'yispu'ah v'yischoman v'yisnaseh, v'yisadar v'yisaleh v'yisalal shemei d'kiddushah b'richu. Le'elah minko b'yochasa v'shirasa, tush b'chasa v'nechamasa, da'am yichon b'yoma v'imru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shmaya v'chayim aleinu, v'yaku Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu v'yaku Yisrael v'imru amen. May the source of peace and comfort bring peace and comfort to all who mourn. And may we, as champions of the divine, with a little bit of godliness inside of us, may we also bring peace and comfort to those who mourn. And let us say, Amen. As I mentioned in the very beginning of the Shabbat celebration, there's a midrash that Moses was shown the future. And he was shown people who were embellishing what he brought forth. And he was thrilled to see that people captured his revolutionary spirit, as he was a revolutionary, overthrowing the power of Pharaoh and liberating his people as he liberated the minds and the bodies of his people. And so we continue now with the final benediction. Benediction means literally a good saying. And one of our greatest Jews was called Benedict Spinoza, but he wanted to make his name Jewish, so he took the word Benedict and made it Hebrew, which is Baruch, meaning blessing or benediction. And so Baruch Spinoza was someone who followed in the revolutionary footsteps of Moses. He was a free thinker. He radically altered the concept of God, so it was no longer a personal God at all, but rather a power, a creative power in the universe. And Einstein developed that concept even further. And we at Va-Dor cherish these innovations of Baruch Spinoza and Einstein in science, because what Baruch Spinoza did centuries ago, he allowed the Jewish people to continue to believe in God and continue to practice Judaism by making it accessible and meaningful and relevant in the modern world. So we celebrate his pioneering spirit with the final benediction, and I hope that each one of us will have the power and the courage and the confidence to interpret Judaism and to understand God in our way, blessed with all of the revelations of the prophets, of the scientists, of our parents, and of our own common sense and our own background, so that we too can be a blessing to humanity. Yivarecha Adonai v'yishmarecha. May you be blessed and preserved and brought safely through this horrific pandemic to good health and security. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka. May the light of love shine upon you and shine from you always. Yisar Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May you be lifted up by the power of love and the inspiration of our ancestors in order to achieve your highest potential and to help others to also achieve their potential and to help construct a world of justice, of joy, of jubilation, and of shalom, of peace. Amen.
Yevarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. V'yasem lecha shalom.
A beautiful Shabbat to one and all. We're so happy that you've chosen to celebrate Shabbat with us tonight. We're very thankful to Bill and Annie and their business, Kosher Caregivers, for sponsoring our Shabbat tonight. Their sponsorship helps us to produce these special Shabbat services and supports what we're doing at Va-Dor. We hope that you too may wish to help us by sponsoring an upcoming Shabbat service. We're so thankful for Rabbi Barry Silver, Rose Lopater, Andrew Susman, and Arnie Pickholtz for their help in creating these wonderful virtual Shabbat experiences for us all to enjoy. If you'd like to learn more about Va-Dor, we welcome you to join us for our Zoom open house on Saturday evening, November 7th at 7 p.m. Meet our rabbi, our board, and our members. Enjoy the beautiful ritual of Havdalah as we end Shabbat. And then try your hand at Stump the Rabbi, when we can all participate and ask questions of the rabbi and have some fun at the same time. Join us as we build a Judaism that can appeal to people of any age, any belief, any denomination. We offer a very unique, universal, and rational approach to Judaism. We welcome you to learn and find out more through our voice email newsletters, our website, ladorvador.org, our Facebook page, and our YouTube channel, where you can find all of our past services and programs. We welcome all through our doors, both literally and virtually. Help us to spread the word about Va-Dor and about our special experience and approach. We welcome you to watch at any time a beautiful film called The Keeper, based on the true story of a soccer-playing German POW at the end of World War II in England. Each view is $12 and helps support our congregation. We also have Chat with the Rabbi every Tuesday evening at 7 p.m. on Zoom, a time when we can hear and ask about the Torah Parsha of the week, speak about current events, and anything else that may come up. We're working on a few great ideas and will provide details soon. Virtual trips to Israel from the safety of your home and a virtual concert. You can find out more about these and get links when they're available from our website, ladorvador.org, and from our email newsletter, The Voice. We hope you'll join us for our Oneg Shabbat later tonight at 8:30 p.m., our Zoom and Schmooze, and enjoy some nice music, conversation, and seeing one another. Be safe, stay well, wishes of love and peace to one and all. Shabbat Shalom from Va-Dor. Have a great Shabbat and a beautiful week.
בשנה הבאה נשב על המרפסת ונספור ציפורים נודדות. ילדים בחופשה ישחקו תופסת בין הבית לבין השדות. ענבים אדומים יבשילו עד הערב ויוגשו צוננים לשולחן, ורוחות רדומים ייסעו אל אם הדרך, עיתונים ישנים וענן. עוד תראה כמה טוב יהיה בשנה הבאה. עוד תראה כמה טוב יהיה בשנה הבאה. בשנה הבאה נפרוס כפות ידיים מול האור הניגר הלבן. ענפה לבנה תפרוס באור כנפיים, והשמש תזרח בתוכן. עוד תראה כמה טוב יהיה בשנה הבאה. עוד תראה כמה טוב יהיה בשנה הבאה. כמה טוב יהיה בשנה הבאה. עוד תראה כמה טוב יהיה בשנה הבאה. נשב על המרפסת ונספור ציפורים נודדות. ילדים בחופשה ישחקו תופסת בין הבית לבין השדות.
It's time for saying good Shabbos. Yeah. Wish you a Shabbos that is better than you ever had before. No, we wish you good Shabbos. Yeah. Friday night time for saying good Shabbos. Yeah. We'll say good Shabbos cause we've waited all week long. No, we wish you good Shabbos. Yeah. Yes, we can. 25 hours don't make no plans. Challah children, man, I shall one in my kiddish cup. All that I need is this one day. That's what's up. It's an ancient concept. Va-Dor talking about what God said. I've been waiting for this all week long. How many matzo balls you want? Yeah, I got the Shabbat spirit. I feel it so strong from the minute of the kiddish to bit kind of my zones. Mirror voices joining in song. Keep the music going all night long. Sit down, relax, I want to impress. Life's hard, need time to de-stress. Thank God for my weekly refresh. Man, I love me some Shabbos Kodesh. Oh, it's time for saying good Shabbos. Yeah. Wish you a Shabbos that is better than you ever had before. No, we wish you good Shabbos. Yeah. Friday night time for saying good Shabbos. Yeah. We'll say good Shabbos cause we've waited all week long. No, we wish you good Shabbos.
Yeah, the glow of candlelight as we're standing side by side. Smell the spices as we sway. Feel the Shabbos fade.